All right, what is up, you friggin' geniuses? Today, you're gonna get a little smarter because you're gonna learn how to multiply and divide negative numbers. All right, so let's get into it. So these are the rules that you're gonna need to know. Okay, there's not a whole bunch of them. They're pretty straightforward. So once you see some examples, I think it's all gonna make sense, all right? So first of all, we're gonna start right here. Number one. Let's number these. All right, number one, positive times positive equals a positive, okay? Number two is a positive times a negative is negative, or negative times positive is negative also, right? Because multiplication, the order doesn't matter, so they're both negative. And then lastly, a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So here are some examples. Okay, so for number one, what's 2 times 2? 2 times 2, as you know, is 4. This is positive. This is positive, so this is positive. Okay? Same thing, right? 2 times 5 is positive 10, right? Positive, positive, positive. Pretty straightforward. All right, number 2. What about a positive times a negative? So a positive times a negative. 2 times negative 2 would be negative 4. Okay? Same thing if we wrote it the other way around. Negative 2 times 2, still negative 4. Okay, the order doesn't matter. The only thing we were looking for is the negative sign here. Okay, so we have one negative sign, so this is negative also. Okay, here's another example. 2 times negative 5, right? So we have one negative sign here, so that's negative 10. And again, if we had negative 5 times positive 2, still, we only have the one negative sign. So that's negative 10. Okay? And number 3, negative times negative equals a positive. So if we had, for example, negative 2 times negative 2, that would be positive 4. Almost said negative. No, positive. Negative times a negative equals a positive. Okay? Again, so if we had negative 2 times negative 5. This would be positive 10. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Negative times a negative equals positive. Okay? So a rule that basically sums this up is if you have an even number of negative signs, it's positive. If you have an odd number of negative signs, it's negative. Right? So for example, here we had one negative sign, right? There's just that one negative sign here. There's just one negative sign here, right? So one negative sign here, so your answer is negative. One negative sign here, so your answer is negative, right? Because 1 is an odd number, right? Odd number, negative. Even number, positive. 2 negative signs here, right? 2 is an even number, so your answer is positive. So let's do a few other examples. What if we had negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2? What would that be? Well, let's see. 2 times 2 times 2, what is that? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 times 2 is 8. But is this positive or negative? Well, how many negative signs do we have? We have 1, 2, 3. So is 3 odd or even? Well, 3 is an odd number, so our answer will be negative. Negative 8. Okay? So let's do another one. What if we had negative 2 times negative 5 times negative 3? Well, 2 times 5 is 10, and then 10 times 3 is 30. And is this positive or negative? Well, again, how many negative signs do we have? 1, 2, 3. 3 is an odd number, so our answer will be negative. So our answer is negative 30. Okay, let's do another example. Let's do yellow. Yellow's nice. Isn't yellow nice? I think it's nice. Okay, so negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. What is that? Well, how many negative signs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is 4 an even or an odd number? 4 is an even number, right? So our answer is going to be positive. And then what's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, right? So that's 4. And then 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 times this last 2 right here, 8 times 2 is 16, right? So this is positive 16. Let's do one more. What if we had, I'll write it right here, right underneath. Okay, what if we had negative 2 times negative 5 times negative 3 times negative 1? What would this equal? Okay, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 30 times 1 is still 30. So our answer is 30. And again, is this positive or negative? Well, how many negative signs do we have? Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 negative signs, which 4 is an even number, so our answer is positive. Last one. Just a little extra bonus one. Why not? What if we had 3 times negative 3 times negative 1? What is that? Well, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 1. 9 times 1 is 9. Is this positive or negative? Well, how many negative signs do we have? We have 1, 2 negative signs. Is 2 even or odd? 2, number 2 is even. So our answer is positive. Okay, so this rule right here is kind of your golden rule. Okay, if you want to just write this at the top of your homework or your test or your quiz or whatever, I think it's going to help you out a lot. Okay. Because these rules also apply to these up here, right? So if we have an even number, right? So for example, we have an even number right here, right? Because we have 2 negatives, that's even. So our answer is going to be positive, which is positive right here, okay? If we have an odd number of negative signs, it's going to be negative, right? So in both of these examples, right? This example, or sorry, let's not confuse you. In that example and that example, those 2 examples, we have 1 negative sign here. So our answer was negative, right? 1 negative sign, answer is negative. Same thing right here. Okay? So this will basically cover all your problems. And just in case you see a few other examples with the number 0, if you had negative 2 times 0, what would that be? Well, remember, anything times 0 is just 0. So this does, even though we only have 1 negative sign, it doesn't matter. We have 0. 0 rules your world, okay? It will rock you. So your answer is 0. Okay? Again, if we had negative 29 times 1 times negative 7 times negative 3 times 12 times 0, your answer is 0. Okay, all this times 0 is still just 0. So that would be the only other example where this rule wouldn't necessarily apply, okay? Because remember, anything times 0 is just 0. But for everything else, remember this rule right here, okay? And again, just write it at the top of your page. You'll be golden, pony boy. All right, so that's multiplication. Let's move to division now. The rules are pretty much the same. Okay, so don't get thrown off by them. We got two positives, we get a positive. We have one negative, we get a negative. If we have two negatives, we get a positive, right? So same thing from before. So for example, if I have 1 divided by 1, well, that's just 1, right? Nothing new here. I'm just reiterating this, right? So for another example, if we had 10 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5, right? So we got a positive, so we get a positive. We got a positive, we got a positive, so we get a positive. Okay? Nothing new there, just reiterating. Now, if we have a positive over a negative, so what if we have 1 divided by negative 1? What would that be? Negative. Okay? Because we only have one negative sign here. That'd be negative 1, right? And we could rewrite that the other way. Negative 1 over 1, it's still the same thing. Just negative 1, okay? If we had 10 over negative 2, that would be negative 5, right? Because we have the one negative. And if we rewrote it the other way, still the same thing, right? If we had negative 10 over positive 2, still negative 5, because we still have the one negative sign right there. And lastly, a negative over a negative. So if we have negative 1 over negative 1, that's positive 1. If we had negative 10 over negative 2, well, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Is it positive or negative? Well, we got two negatives, so this is a positive. So again, these three rules right here mirror, or they're pretty much the same as these three rules up here, right? Two positives, you get a positive. One negative, you get a negative. Two negatives, you get a positive, right? We ran through all the examples. Now, multiplication, like I said, pretty much the same thing. Positive over positive, right? Positive. You get one negative here, it's negative. You get two negatives, it's positive, okay? Write down the rule at the top of your page or homework or whatever. And like I said, you're going to ace your test, and you're going to tell me that you aced your test. I'm going to be so proud of you, like I'm your dad, and I'm going to give you the biggest high five you've ever had, okay? So, that's how you multiply and divide negative numbers. Hopefully that helped, and I'll see you guys in the next video.